Good afternoon, everybody, friends and colleagues, both here in this room, but also in our diocesan and international offices. And I'm really pleased to introduce the new strategic framework, Just One World. It's clear to us all, never before have we lived in such an unequal world. 10 years after the global agreement on the MDGs, 30 years after the Bain report, the first global blueprint to tackle poverty, and over 40 years after Popular Progressio, that prophetic document of Catholic social teaching, we know the facts today. More than 1 billion people still living in absolute poverty, 900 million illiterate, mostly girls and women, most without the access to basic health care, barely meeting their needs. And yet it's not as if nothing's changed over the past decade. In Europe, Americas and parts of Asia, economic growth, technology, globalization has seen dramatic improvements in the living standards for millions of people. But with a handful of exceptions, we understand that the price has been massive inequality and environmental degradation. The poorest and most disadvantaged in our world still struggle to be heard by politicians, businessmen, and global bureaucrats. And as we tell our supporters, the double whammy of global economic downturn and climate change will only increase these injustices. So into this introduction to the framework this afternoon, I want to give you 5 reasons why I'm passionate about Just One World and why it's important to me, and I believe to all staff and volunteers. The first reason, because it does exactly what it says on the cover. This framework is about turning our vision and mission into an agenda for change. We exist to realise a vision of a world which reflects the justice of the kingdom of God, where the hungry and thirsty have food and water, where the mighty are put in their places, where love is given and received, where we're all equal and each human person flourishes and lives in peace. That's what our vision says. And it's this vision that's radical and uncompromising and demands action. So in Just One World, we've tried to translate it into 4 aims, reflecting our mission and 20 examples of change we want to see happening over the next 10 years. What we should see as the critical outcomes of our work. They're both ambitious and they're achievable. They try to address some of the issues in my opening words, that poverty can only be tackled if we address the blocks to development and the structural injustices that keep people impoverished. If we increase the power and influence of people living in poverty, particularly women. If people have access to sustainable livelihoods and basic services and live in peace. And if people are able to recover quickly from crises and emergencies. These aims are not about us. They're about bringing a real and positive change to the lives of some of the world's poorest and most disadvantaged people. And they demand an engagement with the Catholic community here. They include examples of change where we and our partners can have a direct influence on, such as supporting communities where we work to develop sustainable livelihoods, or building links between North and South. But they also include more ambitious systemic changes where we're contributing alongside others, such as more accountable global governance and transparency in international business. My second reason follows on from the first. Just One World commits us to demonstrating that we are doing the things we said we'd do, and this is making a difference in the lives of people living in poverty. It means tracking the progress we're making in all those areas of change we're seeking under our aims. It's about assessing our contribution where we're working with others. It's not about swallowing the agenda of DFID or other institutional donors, but about being more accountable to the people and communities where we work and to our supporters, and I think to each other. If we develop our own meaningful indicators and methodologies, we can avoid having some of the cruder metrics imposed upon us. To be honest, historically and with some exceptions, we've not been too good at this, but I believe we can rise to the challenge and make it part of our everyday work practice.